What is up, everyone? How is everyone doing on this college football playoff semifinal week? What a week it's going to be. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Thank you guys for clicking on this Apple Podcast or Spotify. Thank you for listening and watching. And as always, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on social media at Talking Sports PD on X and on Instagram. Make sure you guys follow us on all those platforms. A lot of great content, a lot of interactive content. So make sure you guys check us out over there. And as always, we're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSP for a 100% deposit match up to $100 on Underdog Fantasy. It's the best time to get an Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSP. I started the podcast with saying, well, it is a college football playoff semifinal week. So what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about the college football playoff semifinals. Before we get to the semifinals, I want to quickly touch on the quarterfinals because we don't do recap episodes here. We do preview episodes here. The fact that we had Oregon pitched a shutout against Texas Tech. I picked Oregon to win that game. I thought it was going to be closer. I thought Texas Tech would put up a little bit more of a fight. They ended up putting up absolutely no fight offensively. They were good defensively, but they were bad offensively. You had Indiana. What is going on in college football? If Indiana is shellacking Alabama in the Rose Bowl, that was never a matchup, so I picked that game wrong. And then we had two crazy upsets. Miami over the defending national champions in Ohio State on a weeknight, on a Friday night. And then we had Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambles or Johnny Manziel or Cam Newton or Tim Tebow or whatever you want to call it, the superstar that Trinidad Chambles is, shocked the world and upset Kirby Smart and Georgia. So that leads us with two games and two semifinals matchups. Let's start with the one that is taking place January 8th, 2026 in the Fiesta Bowl, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. 10-seed Miami taking on 6-seed Ole Miss. Let's talk with Miami. Offensively, they're a top. We've talked about some of the stuff, so I might repeat some of my stuff, but it helps with the preview of this episode. So Miami, coming off two victories. They go into College Station and upset A&M. They beat A&M. Then they upset Ohio State in the quarterfinals, and they shock the defending national champions. And now they take on Ole Miss. So top 30 nationally in points per game. They've been a very good red zone offense. That's something that has stood out to me. They've been a very good red zone offense. Defensively, they're one of the nation's best defenses. 13.1 points per game allowed in the regular season, fourth nationally. This is something that's going to be key. We saw what they did against Ohio State. They ended up beating Ohio State 24-14. Their run defense held Ohio State to under 2 yards per carry. Under 2 yards per carry to an Ohio State football team in the year 2025-2026. They held them to 14 points. Carson Beck wasn't anything spectacular. Like, he wasn't Trinidad Chambliss. He was not. He was not Trinidad Chambliss when we saw against Georgia. But I don't know if he has to be Trinidad Chambliss based off what we saw against Ohio State. Like, he was effectively, he didn't turn the ball over. Like, go back to the SMU game where their defense was solid. They played a mobile quarterback in Kevin Jennings. They also had a ton of yards, but they had over 400 yards, but only 20 points. So you go back to, well, if you have over 400 yards, you only have 20 points. Something didn't happen. Yeah, you know what happened? Carson Beck threw 2 interceptions. You know what Carson Beck did not do against Ohio State? Turn the ball over. This team is so hard to beat because they're so good defensively, and they have the talent on the outside and in the running back room that when Carson Beck just plays within himself and doesn't turn the ball over, they're really hard to beat. They're really hard to beat, and they were against Ohio State. Some of their key strengths: elite defense, strong passing game protection, turnover margin. They're top 15 nationally in turnover margin. And they've experienced in these quote-unquote upset games, even though they're not upset games. Some concerns is I think at times offensively they struggled to run the ball. And they didn't need it against Ohio State. But if Trinidad Chambliss is doing his thing, and he's doing his thing what we saw against Georgia, and I don't know if he can in this Miami defense, but if he's just some guy said it, like an analyst said it, I forgot who it was, but Sometimes you have to tip his cap. Like Georgia had to tip their cap to Trinidad Shambles. Georgia had a lot of self-inflicted wounds in that second half and cost themselves the game. And what a collapse by Kirby Smart and Georgia that was in that second half. But Trinidad Shambles, you got to tip his cap to him because he did some things that you see on a video game. Like you see that Johnny Manziel did, or Lamar Jackson did at Louisville, or what Cam Newton did at Auburn. Like some of those things you just don't see, and there's nothing you can do about it. But going back to it, run game consistency, they need to be able to run the ball. And their third down offense has not been good against top defenses. But guess what? Miami should be able to run the ball. They were able to run the ball against A&M, a top 40 rush defense in the country. They were able to run the ball against Ohio State, a top 10 rush defense in the country. Guess where Ole Miss does not rank? In the top 10 or in the top 40 in rush defense. They're in the 60s to 70s of rush defenses in the country. Miami should be able to run the ball and run the ball efficiently against this Ole Miss defense. Let's go to Ole Miss. They come off 2 wins. They beat Tulane. They were expected to beat Tulane. They took care of business, and they beat Tulane. Then they take on Georgia in the quarterfinals, and Kirby Smart, and they cut the neck off the line. They cut the head off the line. It was a little graphic, but they cut the neck off the line. What that means is teams and Ole Miss struggled to do this earlier this year. Teams this year, when they face Georgia, have struggled to cut the head off the line or the head off, whatever you want to call it. They've struggled to, they've taken leads. They've taken fourth quarter leads. They've taken leads under 5 minutes. And they haven't been able to close the game. Basically, they haven't been able to close out Georgia. Their teams haven't been able to do that this year, outside of Alabama earlier in the year. And Ole Miss failed to do that in the regular season. They did not. Trinidad Shambles and Kewan Lacey. Like, what a duo. A dynamic duo in Kewan Lacey can get out of the backfield as a pass catcher, is an elite runner. And then you have Trinidad Shambles. He's not running for 100 yards. But you go back to that play against Georgia when he scrambled around, ended up in his own end zone and was able to get around 2 defenders and was still able to make or complete the pass, and they were able to complete the first down. That's what Trinidad Shambles can do. He's not going to burn you for 85 to 100. He can, but that's not what he's done this year. He's been able to extend plays. Like you think you have him. You bring a corner, you bring a safety blitz, you bring a linebacker. The edge is there, and you still can't get after him. I'm not going to call him Lamar Jackson, but he has that Lamar Jackson escapability. Like he just does. Like that's who he's been this year. He's really hard to stop. And if he has one of those games that he did against Georgia, I don't know if it matters when Miami throws at you. Ole Miss is just going to win. Doesn't mean he's going to have the game. They need him to have that game. Doesn't mean he's going to, but that's just that's the type of quarterback he is. Their defense scares me. They're not good against the run. They've been average at times. Like if we go back to the Georgia game, Gunnar Stockton was terrific. It's unfortunate that performance from Gunnar Stockton is going to get overlooked by the fact that they lost, the fact that the defense and a Kirby Smart defense, shame on Kirby Smart, but a Kirby Smart defense that was just lifeless in the second half. And then you had the Trinidad Shambles performance. You had three factors that are going to not be, or that are going to be talked about over Gunnar Stockton's performance. But Gunnar Stockton was great. Ole Miss's defense scares me because it's not good. Like Pete Golding's a DC, and his defense is not that good, which is concerning for potential future Ole Miss. But maybe they don't need it if Trinidad Shambles is going to be like that. Talked about what they did against Georgia. I talked about what they did against Ole Miss. Strengths, explosive offense, Shambles' dual threat capability, and big play potential in the pass game. Potential concerns for this team is defense against top passing attacks, potentially Carson Beck, and then depth. Their depth in late game scenarios has kind of reared its ugly head at times this year. Some matchup analytics, key statistical edges. Third down efficiency. Miami converts 45% on third down, Ole Miss 43%. Defensive side, Miami holds opponents to 32%, better than Ole Miss's 36%. So Ole Miss and Miami convert similar amount on third downs, and they stop each other a similar amount on third downs. Miami's slightly better on stopping teams at 32% compared to Ole Miss's 36%. That's a stat. That's a paper popper stat, as Josh Pate likes to say, where what gives the edge? What defense is able to get the other offense off the field on third down? Red zone. Miami, I mentioned this earlier. Miami's offense capitalizes efficiently. Ole Miss is very middle of the pack offensively in the red zone. For an offense that's so good, but it's been relying on these big play abilities. And you don't get big play abilities in the red zone because it's impossible. You're inside the 20. There's no big play abilities in the red zone. Ole Miss boosts high yards per play and scoring explosive enough. I don't know if Miami's an explosive enough offense to compare to what Ole Miss is. Trends. Miami at the moment is leaning a couple point favorites. Let me double check this to make sure I give you guys an accurate line here. I love doing this real time here. But Ole Miss right now, Miami is -3, where I'm recording Tuesday morning before I head into work. Tuesday morning, January 6th, Miami's 3-point favorites. Players to watch. Ruben Bain on Miami's defense, Carson Beck on Miami's offense, and then Ole Miss is pretty simple. Kejuan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss. So let's get down to the prediction. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty prediction. On one side here, if you look at Ole Miss, and they just come off a shocking win over Georgia. They pulled the upset in the Sugar Bowl over Georgia. You had Trinidad Chambliss play one of the best performances we have seen from a quarterback in recent years. He was efficient. He was incredible. He was explosive. He extended plays. He did everything you want from a dual threat quarterback. He was Johnny Manziel like he was Lamar Jackson. He was Deshaun Watson at Clemson. Like he was those type of players. Can Ole Miss get another one of those performances? Because in my opinion, I think Ole Miss needs another one of those performances to beat Miami. I do. I think Miami's defense up front, with Ruben Bain, their pass rush, their ability to stop the run, the secondary's gotten better. And if Carson Beck plays within himself and they lean on Mark Fletcher in the run game and they lean on Tony in the pass game, and Carson Beck is able to control himself and be efficient and just be a nice, solid quarterback, I think Miami wins this game. I do. I do think the only way Ole Miss wins this game is if we get another Trinidad Chambliss performance. And of course I forgot to put this up, but this has been sitting here been talking for 10 minutes and I didn't put this up. If we get another Trinidad Chambliss performance, if you're Miami, you tip your hat to him, you move on, and you're like, we just got beat by an elite performance. It can happen again. I think he can win their game themselves. I don't know if it's going to happen to that level. So I'm going to go with Miami. I'm going to go with Miami winning. I'm going to go with Miami covering the -3. I'm going to go Miami 24, Ole Miss 20. So Miami 24, Ole Miss 20. Miami wins the Fiesta Bowl, and they're moving on to the granddaddy of them all. It's like this, the granddaddy of them all. The granddaddy of them all is the Rose Bowl, the national championship. Before we move on, guys, to our second and final game that we're going to be talking about, Oregon versus Indiana. Right? We've seen this matchup before. Make sure you guys like, make sure you guys comment, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. All our social media links are down below. Road to 6K on the channel. Please support. We have more NFL content coming out later this week. So we have more content coming out this week with the wild card round starting. It's a busy time in the football world. And obviously, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, X, and our Instagram links are all down below. Oregon, Indiana, in the Peach Bowl, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Friday, January 9th, 2026, 7:30 Eastern start in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Why'd that go away? Oh, I put it on a timer. Look at me. Look at this rookie. No, we need this. Sorry. Oregon versus Indiana. Right now, the line, as of Tuesday morning, January 6th, Indiana's -3.5. Let's start with Indiana. What did we watch in the Rose Bowl? Like, they beat Alabama. Alabama. Like, I don't think people are talking about enough how crazy that is. They went to the Rose Bowl, and they body bagged Alabama 38-3. Ty Simpson was benched / hurt. I think it was more hurt than benched. They body bagged Alabama. Like, absolutely. Like, this isn't like in the NFL where you get upsets or teams change over the years. The fact that Indiana was able to beat Alabama by 35 points isn't just, I think, just let alone, we got to talk about that by itself. Like, that's a shocking performance. Like, Indiana beating, like, that's just, it's shocking. Like, they got to bye to the quarterfinals. Miami and Ole Miss both did not get buys. Neither did Oregon here. But some of their strengths Fernando Mendoza, Roman Hemby, he looks healthy. Their defense, one of the best defenses in the country. They're so good at stopping the run. They were so good. And look, Alabama has not been able to run the ball against anybody at all. And they were never going to be able to run the ball against Indiana. What Indiana needs to do in this game is slow the game down, dominate with ball control, win the trenches, and capitalize on mistakes. Indiana's done that all year. And then they also hit you over the top with Fernando Mendoza, who just picks apart defenses left and right. It's not talked about how crazy of a result that is and how good how good Indiana was defensively, how good they were offensively. They're not the most explosive offense in the country. Like, they're not Ole Miss's Trinidad Chambliss' offense. Like, they're like, they're not that type of offense. Is my audio cut out for half a second there because I smacked my mic. So if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're like, where did Peter go for half a second? Well, yeah, because I hit my mic. Because I'm so into this college football playoff semifinal. But they're that good offensively where they just kind of like lull you to sleep, lull you to death. Like, almost like, it's crazy how interesting Indiana's offense is compared to like what Ole Miss you see offensively. Let's go to Oregon here, right? So Oregon took care of JMU at home. We saw that coming. I predicted that. Most people saw that coming. Then they go to Lubbock. They take on Texas Tech in the 5-4 matchup, which I was really excited for. It's a noon start. I was really excited for it. And Oregon's defense was terrific. They pitched a shutout, right? Like, you can't get any better than a shutout. Their offense scored 23 points. And on paper, you're like, okay, that's good. But if you sat back and actually, if you looked on paper at times, and if you just watched the game, they went for it on 8 fourth downs. They settled for a ton of field goals. Dante Moore looked rushed. He looked panicked. And look, before we get to any more here, I want to put this out there in the universe. Texas Tech has a really good defense. Their defense is really good. So credit to Texas Tech for making Dante Moore's life a living hell in that quarterfinal matchup. Sorry, the game wasn't in Lubbock. That's not what I meant. The game was at the Orange Bowl. Sorry. I got confused for a second there. But I don't love what I saw from Oregon offensively. I just don't. Like, is it Will Stein being the head coach at Kentucky and being two jobs at the same time? Yes, that's a problem. That's a college. I'm not going to sit here and debate if that's not a problem. Of course it's a problem. College football has a major problem with that because Will Stein should be able to finish his job at Oregon and then coaches should be able to sign. But the calendar's so out of whack that we just can't do that because Will Stein is currently the head coach at Kentucky. The transfer portal's open. So he's trying to get players to build a roster for next year and establish a winning pedigree at Kentucky. But he's also still coaching. He coached the first round, he coached the quarterfinals, and he's coaching the semifinals, and there's a chance he's coaching the national championship if Oregon is able to defeat Indiana on Friday. Their defense is great. Oregon's defense is great. They pitched a shutout against Texas Tech. They're one of the nation's best units. They're top 10 points per game at 15.1. Their defense is going to be the reason they win this game. If they win this game, it's going to be their defense. Dante Moore right now is projected to be the second quarterback in the NFL draft. I need to see more from Dante Moore. You can go back and you can say the Will Stein issue. I do think it is an issue. I do. But you need to see more from Dante Moore. Excuses aside, you need to see more from Dante Moore than what we saw against Texas Tech because that is not going to be good enough. You cannot go for it in 8 fourth downs. You cannot settle for that many field goals against Indiana. You're just going to lose. Like, it's just not going to work because I don't know if Oregon's defense can do what they did to Texas Tech to Indiana. I just don't know. I think their defense is going to be able to keep them in the game, but I don't know if they can pitch a shutout against Indiana. I just don't think it's obviously possible. Previous matchup. This is funny. This is the only one we've seen a previous matchup for. Indiana defeated Oregon 30-20 in Eugene, October 11th this past season. Mendoza, 215 passing yards, had an untimely interception, pick 6, but had a great clutch couple fourth quarter drives. Roman Hemby had 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, Oregon had a pick 6. Oregon's O-line really struggled, and their offense really struggled against Indiana's defense. They allowed 6 sacks, and Dante Moore was intercepted twice. That's something that you have to flip. You can't get sacked 6 times, and you can't throw 2 interceptions against Indiana. You're going to lose. They already did that once, and they lost. Key takeaways from this game, or from that game. Indiana, like I said, controlled the line of scrimmage. Oregon's pass protection breakdowns cost them momentum. They're huge. The Indiana defense made big plays in big moments. Sacks, turnovers, and pressure throughout the game. I think that is something that Indiana is going to try to replicate on Friday because I think they can get after Oregon. I think Texas Tech was able to get after Dante Moore in this Oregon offensive line. They were able to rush Dante Moore. I think Indiana can do that. I don't need to break down all the offense. I think it's right time to get to the prediction. So, some X factors and key players. I guess let's talk Mendoza, Roman Hemby, and then Indiana's defense as a whole. And then for Oregon, it's can they sustain a run game and can Dante Moore be efficient? I think if you're able to run the ball offensively, if you're Oregon, you're able to put a lot less pressure on Dante Moore. If they get into obvious passing downs, it's when Indiana's pass rush is going to be able to tee off on you. I think that's scary if you're an Oregon fan right now. Let's go to predictions. Let's see who we got. So right now on Tuesday, January 6th in the AM, Indiana is minus 3.5. I'm going to go with, let's look at for this side. Oregon side. They struggled offensively against Texas Tech. I know they put up 23 points. Dante Moore felt rushed. He felt out of control, and they had to go for an 8 fourth downs, and they settled for a ton of field goals. If Oregon wants to win this game and make up for what happened in October when they lost at home by 10, by double digits to Indiana, they're going to have a great performance from Dante Moore. They're going to have to be able to run the ball, and they're going to have to be protective. I have faith in Oregon's defense that they're going to be able to keep them in this game. Oregon's defense is not – they might not win the game for them like they did against Texas Tech, but Oregon's defense is going to keep them in this game. Is Oregon's offense going to be able to take that and win this game? I'm going to say no. I think it's a closer game than what we saw last time. I don't think it's a double-digit win by Indiana. I think it's 7. I think it's 5 points or less. I think Indiana wins a close, low-scoring game. Give me 21-17 Indiana over Oregon, and that sets up a matchup for Indiana versus Miami in the College Football National Championship. Fun little tidbit here. Guess what, guys? If you look at the head coach of Miami, Mario Cristobal, if you look at the head coach at Ole Miss, Pete Golding, Kurt Cinetti at Indiana, and Dan Lanning at Oregon. All 4 of those guys, one, have never made a national championship game. So the 2 winners will make their first ever appearance in the national championship. And if you connect the dots, none of these coaches have won a national championship. So we're going to get a first-time national champion in this college football playoff, and that is awesome. So to reiterate, let's go back. I got Miami over Ole Miss, and I have Indiana over Oregon in both close games. I do have Miami covering. I have Miami and Indiana both covering, but very close. I think these are low-scoring, close games, but I like Indiana, and I like Miami, and then we'll see what happens. As always, make sure you guys follow us on social media at Talking Sports PD on X and on Instagram. And as always, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSP for a 100% deposit match up to $100. The link is in the description. Make sure you guys click on that and get on Underdog Fantasy and use that code. That is going to do it for us. Apple Podcasts and Spotify links are in the description as well. Like I said, Twitter and Instagram. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll be back later this week for our wild card round preview when we'll be previewing 6 contests in the wild card round. It's going to be a great week of football. It's going to be awesome. So you guys don't go anywhere. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll see you guys back. If you just like college football, I'll see you back for the national championship preview next week. But until then, enjoy the football this week. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, and thank you.